The rain fell in soft, rhythmic drops over the city, turning the streets shiny and slippery. John tightened his coat around his shoulders, his hand holding his daughter Lily's small mittened hand. She giggled as she splashed in a puddle, her little red boots sending water flying everywhere. "Careful, Lily." John laughed, catching her before she slipped. "You're going to soak yourself." Lily looked up at him, her eyes sparkling. "I don't care, Daddy. Puddles are fun." John smiled, shaking his head. Children saw the world differently, he thought. Even after everything, Lily's joy could make any bad day feel lighter. As they walked along the park path, John noticed a figure sitting alone on a bench under a large oak tree. A woman sat hunched over, her shoulders trembling, her hair wet from the rain. Her face was partly hidden by a hood, but he could see the curve of her jaw tense, her hands twisting a scarf in her lap. John felt a tug of concern. He didn't know why, but he couldn't just walk past. "Excuse me," he said softly, slowing down. "Are you okay?" The woman looked up, startled, her eyes wide and red. She blinked rapidly, as if trying to hide her tears. I'm fine," she said, her voice shaking. John nodded slowly. "I get it. Sometimes it doesn't feel fine at all. Does it?" She didn't answer, just stared at the wet pavement, her fingers still twisting the scarf. Lily tugged at his coat. "Daddy, can we go?" she whispered. John knelt to her level. "We will. But let's just check if she's all right first." "Okay," Lily nodded hesitantly. He walked closer to the bench. "It's raining a lot. Do you want to share my umbrella? You'll get soaked otherwise." The woman hesitated. Then slowly, she nodded. John held the umbrella over her and smiled gently. "I'm John, and this is Lily." The woman gave a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Emily," she whispered. "Nice to meet you, Emily," John said. "Do you want to walk a little with us? The rain isn't going to stop, but it's easier to move around than to sit in one wet place." For a moment, she seemed unsure. Then, after a long pause, she stood up, letting John hold the umbrella over both of them. Lily grabbed Emily's hand, her small fingers warm and curious. "Hi," Lily said brightly. "I'm Lily. Do you like puddles?" Emily laughed softly, a fragile sound that made John's chest tighten. "I haven't played in puddles in a long time," she admitted. "You should. Puddles are the best," Lily said, bouncing excitedly. John smiled at the simple interaction. It was funny how children could break walls adults built around themselves without even trying. They walked slowly through the park. The rain had turned the path into a mirror, reflecting the streetlights in long, golden streaks. Emily stayed quiet, looking around. John kept glancing at her, sensing something heavy in her presence, a sadness that seemed too deep for the rain to wash away. After a few minutes, they found a small, covered gazebo. John suggested they rest for a while. Emily sat on the bench inside, hugging her knees. "You seem sad," John said gently, sitting beside her. "Do you want to talk about it?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "I don't know. Maybe it's just everything." John nodded, understanding more than she could know. He had been through hard times himself, the divorce, raising Lily alone, struggling to pay bills. Life was messy, unfair, and sometimes it crushed you. "I get that," he said. "Sometimes you feel like the world just piles everything on you at once. I've been there too. But it's okay to feel it. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." Emily looked at him, her eyes glistening. For the first time, her posture softened. She let out a small sigh, the kind that carries weeks of tension and worry. "You really don't know me," she said quietly. "Nope," John admitted. "But I know what it feels like to need someone to just notice you, even for a minute. You're not alone. I know that might sound strange, but..." He smiled, a little awkwardly. "Sometimes a stranger can help, just by being kind." Emily's lips curved into a faint smile. Strangers, huh? Yes, John said. Strangers can surprise you. For the next half hour, they talked. Nothing heavy. Just light conversation, favorite books, movies, places in the city they liked. Lily bounced around, occasionally asking silly questions. The sound of her laughter seemed to make Emily relax a little more. At one point, Lily leaned against Emily's leg and said, "You should play in the puddles with me next time." Emily laughed softly. Maybe I will." The rain slowed, turning into a gentle drizzle. John realized it had been longer than he thought. Emily stood up, brushing her coat dry. "Thank you," she said, her voice quiet but sincere. "For this. It's been a while since someone just listened." You don't have to thank me," John said, smiling. "Sometimes people just need a little company." Emily nodded, then reached into her bag. "I think I left something here," she said, dropping a small leather glove on the bench. She hesitated, then picked it up again. John noticed the glove. It looked expensive, soft and well-made, in contrast to the simple clothes she wore. He didn't comment, but it made him curious. They walked a little further before Emily stopped. "I should go," she said. "But thank you again, John. And Lily, you made a rough day better." "You're welcome," John said. "Take care of yourself, Emily." She nodded and walked away, her figure slowly disappearing down the rain-soaked path. Lily tugged at John's hand. "Daddy." "Will we see her again?" Lily asked. "I don't know," John admitted. "But sometimes, people cross your path for a reason, even if just for a little while." As they walked home, John kept thinking about Emily. There was something about her, a sadness, yes, but also strength. He couldn't explain why, but he felt that meeting her wasn't just chance. Something in her eyes had spoken to him in a way that was rare and real. That night, John tucked Lily into bed, listening to her soft breathing. He sat in the quiet of his apartment, thinking about Emily. There was a mystery in her sadness, a story untold, and though he didn't know what it was, he felt an unexpected pull to see her again, to understand, to maybe help. Little did he know, Emily's life was far more complicated than he could imagine. She carried secrets and responsibilities that reached heights he had never seen. But for that brief moment in the rain, she was simply a woman in pain, and he had been there, human to human. And sometimes, that was all it took to make a difference. As John turned off the light and lay down, he wondered if the world had a way of bringing people together exactly when they needed it. He didn't know it yet, but this chance encounter was only the beginning, the first step of a story neither of them could have predicted. A story where kindness and humanity might just change everything. You Said, Part 3. 130. 0 words. Kaleko. Or interesting huna chea. Or third-person style. Malekni ha. Or simple basic English. Ka. Or violated free hona chea. The days following the charity event were quiet but full of small moments that mattered more than John realized. Work at the auto repair shop kept him busy, but whenever he returned home, he found himself thinking about Emily, the woman he had met in the rain. Her smile, her soft voice, and the gentle way she had interacted with Lily lingered in his mind like a warm echo. Lily, too, seemed to remember Emily. One evening, as John tucked her into bed, she asked with innocent curiosity, "Daddy, when will we see Emily again?" John smiled, ruffling her hair. "I'm not sure, Lily, but maybe soon. Sometimes people come back into our lives when we least expect it." The next weekend, John took Lily to the library for story hour, as he often did. Lily loved the library, with its rows of colorful books and cozy reading nooks. As John browsed the shelves, searching for a new adventure for Lily, he noticed a familiar figure near the children's section. It was Emily. She crouched beside a small group of children, helping them arrange books and whispering encouragements. She looked completely at ease, her hair neatly tucked behind her ears, and her coat simple yet elegant. She seemed different from the woman in the park, stronger, more confident, yet still the same. Emily, gentle and kind. "Emily?" John said softly, approaching her. She looked up, surprised, and her face brightened into a warm smile. "John, Lily, what a surprise!" Lily ran ahead, squealing with delight. "Emily, come read with us," Emily chuckled, kneeling to Lily's level. "Of course, Lily. Let's pick a story." John watched them with a quiet sense of awe. Emily's interaction with children was natural and unforced. She listened attentively, laughed genuinely, and gave each child a moment of attention, making them feel important. He realized that the sadness he had seen in her eyes before didn't define her. Her kindness and patience were equally strong, and somehow, they balanced her quietly. After story hour, as the library emptied, Emily joined John and Lily at the checkout counter. "You seem very comfortable here," John said. "I guess this is a place you enjoy." Emily smiled softly. "I do. It's simple, peaceful, and it reminds me of what's really important. Helping children enjoy small things, like books or stories, makes me forget some of my worries for a while." John nodded. "It suits you. You seem happier here." Emily hesitated, her fingers twisting the edge of her sleeve. "Happy? Sometimes. But my life outside these walls, it's complicated. There are things I can't always share. Even with people I like." John regarded her calmly. "You don't have to share if you're not ready. I just like knowing you're okay." "That's enough for now." A flicker of relief passed through Emily's eyes. "Thank you, John. That means a lot." They left the library together, Lily skipping ahead, chatting about her favorite stories. John noticed how easily Emily fit into their little world. Her presence didn't feel out of place. It felt comforting. She laughed at Lily's excitement, encouraged her imagination, and even joined in her playful energy. "I never expected to meet someone like you," Emily admitted quietly as they walked. "Someone normal. Someone who lives a normal life." John raised an eyebrow, slightly amused. "Normal? You mean like paying bills, fixing cars, chasing after a child, and trying not to burn dinner?" Emily laughed, the sound soft and musical. "Yes. That kind of normal. It's comforting. Safe." John smiled. "I'm glad you feel that way. Life can be chaotic, but it's the ordinary moments that sometimes matter the most." Emily's expression softened. "It's true. I often forget that. I get caught up in responsibilities, work, expectations, and then I meet someone like you, and it reminds me of what's simple and real." John felt warmth in his chest. "Emily, you're strong. You've been through difficult times, yet you keep moving forward. That's remarkable." For a moment, Emily's gaze lingered on him, a mixture of gratitude and vulnerability shining through. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't often hear that." "You deserve it," John replied sincerely. "Strength isn't just about power or success. It's also about kindness, resilience, and caring for others. You have all of that." The afternoon passed quickly, with small moments that deepened their connection. Emily shared stories of her childhood, her love for books, and her fascination with stories that explored courage and empathy. John shared tales of raising Lily alone, the challenges at work, and the little victories that made life meaningful. Lily, perceptive as always, noticed the bond forming. "Daddy," she said softly after finishing her chocolate, "I like Emily. She makes me happy." John glanced at her, smiling. "I think she makes all of us happy, Lily." Emily reached across the table, resting her hand briefly on John's. "She's wonderful," she said softly. "And you're doing an amazing job raising her." John felt a warm surge of emotion. Emily's words weren't just kind. They carried understanding. She recognized the effort, the sacrifices, and the love he poured into his daughter's life. "Thanks, Emily," he said. "It really means a lot." Later, they walked through quiet streets as the sun began to set. The city was calm, bathed in golden light. Emily seemed more relaxed than John had ever seen her. Her laughter easy and natural. Yet, he sensed the subtle weight she carried, a quiet burden she hadn't fully shared. "You know," Emily said softly, "I never expected to enjoy ordinary days like this." John smiled. "Sometimes ordinary days are extraordinary, if you see them the right way." Emily nodded. "You're right. I often forget that." They stopped by a small playground, where Lily immediately ran to the swings. Emily pushed her gently, laughing along with her. John watched, noticing the softness in her eyes, a side of her that was real and unguarded. "You really love children," he said quietly. Emily smiled, watching Lily soar through the air. "I do. They remind me what's important. They remind me of hope." John felt a connection growing between them deeper than attraction. It was built on understanding, shared values, and quiet admiration. Both had faced struggles and heartbreak, and now they were slowly learning to trust each other. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they walked back toward John's apartment. The streets glimmered with the reflections of city lights on wet pavement. Lily held Emily's hand, swinging it lightly as they walked. At the doorway, Emily turned to John. "Thank you for today," she said softly. "It's been wonderful." John smiled. "The pleasure's all mine." Lily had a great time too. Emily nodded, thoughtful. "I hope we can do this again soon. I enjoy being with you both." "You will," John said confidently, though he didn't know exactly how it would happen. After she left, John leaned against the doorframe, watching the evening sky. He felt a lightness he hadn't known in years, a sense of connection that filled the spaces loneliness had once occupied. Emily was becoming a part of their lives, bringing warmth, joy, and understanding. That night, as he tucked Lily into bed, John realized how much he valued the presence of Emily in their lives. She wasn't just a stranger or a fleeting encounter. She was someone extraordinary. Someone who reminded him of the importance of small moments, kindness, and human connection. Though he didn't yet know the full extent of her life, the responsibilities, the wealth, the power she held, he sensed her humanity. Emily's struggles and vulnerabilities made her strength all the more remarkable, and John felt that their bond, built slowly and carefully, was something rare and meaningful. As he sat by the window, listening to the quiet hum of the city, he reflected on the strange twists of fate that had brought Emily into their lives. A chance meeting in the rain had led to shared laughter, mutual understanding, and the beginnings of trust. Somewhere, across the city, Emily too was reflecting. She thought about John and Lily, about the simplicity and warmth they brought to her life. She didn't yet know how deeply intertwined their lives would become, but she felt a quiet certainty that their connection was just the beginning, the first step in a story filled with human strength, courage, and hope. For now, there was only the joy of shared moments, quiet laughter, and understanding the beginnings of a bond that neither of them could yet imagine fully, but which promised to grow in ways extraordinary and meaningful. The next week began like any other, with John juggling work, household chores, and Lily's school schedule. Yet there was an anticipation he couldn't ignore. Every morning, he found himself glancing at the clock, wondering when he might see Emily again. Her presence had become a quiet thread weaving through his ordinary life, and he was discovering how much he had come to value it. It was a late Wednesday afternoon when John received an unexpected message. Emily had texted him, asking if he and Lily could attend a community partnership meeting the following evening. The message was polite and professional, but there was a warmth in her words that hinted at her reason for inviting them. John felt a mixture of curiosity and hesitation. He didn't know what to expect. The word meeting conjured images of formal offices and corporate suits, worlds far removed from his own simple life. But when he looked at Lily, who was bouncing excitedly after school, he realized they would attend together. Lily's enthusiasm was contagious, and John couldn't resist the chance to see Emily again. The next evening, John and Lily arrived at a sleek building downtown, its glass walls reflecting the city lights. The lobby was modern and sophisticated, filled with people in business attire, moving with purpose. John felt out of place, his casual clothes and worn shoes contrasting sharply with the polished environment. Emily appeared almost immediately, as if she had been expecting them. She wore a tailored suit and walked with the confidence of someone who belonged in the high-powered environment that surrounded them. Yet when she saw John and Lily, her face softened instantly, and she rushed forward with a warm smile. "John, Lily, I'm so glad you could come," she said, her eyes bright. "Don't worry, it's just a small gathering. You'll fit right in." John nodded, though his unease remained. "I trust you, Emily," he said. She took his hand gently, guiding him through the lobby. "You'll see. This is more about people helping each other than business deals." As they entered a conference room filled with neatly arranged chairs and tables, John began to understand that this was no ordinary meeting. People were discussing projects, donations, and initiatives aimed at improving the city. Charts, graphs, and presentations lined the walls. Emily introduced him to several attendees, each nodding politely at his presence. John felt out of place. He was a mechanic, not a business person. He struggled to follow the technical terms and figures being discussed. But then, Emily leaned closer to him and whispered, "Don't worry. You're here to see what we're doing, and your perspective matters more than you think." John glanced at her, surprised. "My perspective?" Emily nodded. "Yes. You live in the community. You see the real challenges people face. Sometimes that matters more than numbers or reports." John felt a quiet pride swell within him. For a moment, he realized that despite the differences in their worlds, Emily valued his experience. She had invited him not as a spectator but as someone who could truly contribute. As the meeting progressed, John noticed the respect people had for Emily. She spoke with authority, her words confident and deliberate. Her ideas were innovative, her plans meticulous, and the room seemed to respond to her guidance with admiration and trust. Slowly, a realization began to form in John's mind. Emily was not just kind and gentle. She was powerful. Incredibly powerful. After the meeting, Emily guided John and Lily to a quieter corner. "I think it's time I tell you the truth," she said softly. John looked at her, puzzled. "Truth?" Emily took a deep breath. I run this company. I'm the CEO. I know that might be surprising, given how we first met. But it's the truth." John's jaw dropped slightly. He stared at her, trying to process the revelation. You're the CEO?" he asked slowly. "All this? You lead this?" Emily nodded. "Yes. I've been managing it for several years. But I didn't want that side of my life to define me. At least, not when I met you and Lily. I wanted you to see me as a person, not a title or a fortune." John felt a mixture of awe, confusion, and admiration. I didn't expect this. Honestly, I didn't know what to think." Emily smiled faintly. "I understand. That's why I waited to tell you. I wanted you to know me for who I am, not what I have." For a moment, silence hung between them, filled only by the distant hum of the city. John looked at Emily, seeing her not just as a powerful businesswoman, but as the woman who had shared laughter, vulnerability, and quiet moments with him and Lily. "You know," he said finally, "this doesn't change anything. You're still Emily. You're still the woman I've come to care about, and I admire what you do, both for the company and for the community." Emily's eyes softened, gratitude shining through. "Thank you, John. That means more than I can say." They walked through the lobby together, John holding Lily's hand as they left the building. The city lights reflected off the glass, casting long shadows on the pavement. John felt a strange mix of emotions: amazement at Emily's world, humility at the contrast to his own, and a deep respect for the woman who had trusted him with her secret. "Daddy," Lily said, tugging at his hand. "She's so amazing." "I knew she was special." John smiled, looking down at her. "Yes, Lily. She is, As they walked home, John reflected on the day. He realized that Emily's power, wealth, and influence didn't intimidate him. Instead, they deepened his admiration. She had faced challenges in ways he could hardly imagine. Yet she remained compassionate, kind, and human. Over the next few days, John noticed subtle changes in their interactions. Emily shared glimpses of her life board meetings, project planning, and charitable initiatives, but always balanced with moments of normalcy, laughter, and care. She continued to join him and Lily in simple outings, the park, the library, and small cafes. John realized that their worlds, though very different, were beginning to merge. He brought his humanity, empathy, and practical perspective, while Emily shared her vision, leadership, and ability to make a difference on a larger scale. Together, they created a balance neither had experienced before. One evening, as they sat on the park bench where they had first met, Emily spoke softly. "John, I hope you know, this doesn't change how I feel about spending time with you and Lily. My life may be complicated, but moments like these are what keep me grounded." John looked at her, the memory of their first encounter still vivid in his mind. "Emily, it's the real you that matters to me. Not your title, not your wealth. Just you." Emily smiled, a mixture of relief and affection. "Thank you, John. That's exactly what I needed to hear." Emily smiled. "Thank you, John." For a long while, they sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily play nearby. John realized that day that human connection, kindness, and empathy were more powerful than wealth or status. Emily's life might be extraordinary, but it was her humanity that made her remarkable. That night, as John tucked Lily into bed, he felt a quiet confidence. He knew that the revelation of Emily's identity would change many things, not all of them simple, but he also knew that their bond was strong enough to endure. It wasn't built on appearances or wealth. It was built on trust, understanding, and shared humanity. And for John, that was the beginning of something extraordinary, a connection that transcended social status, power, and expectation. Somewhere in her penthouse office, Emily looked out over the city skyline. She thought about John and Lily, about the ordinary life that seemed so small compared to hers, yet so full of love and authenticity. She realized that perhaps this was the balance she had been searching for. A reminder that even in a world of power and responsibility, the simplest human connections mattered the most. The city hummed below, alive with possibilities. And for John and Emily, the next chapter of their story, one of trust, growth, and human connection, was just beginning. The weeks following Emily's revelation passed with a quiet rhythm, yet their lives had begun to intertwine in ways John could never have anticipated. Work, school, and daily routines continued as before. But now, there was a new dimension, one filled with trust, understanding, and shared moments that bridged the gap between their very different worlds. Emily had begun including John in some of her projects, asking his opinion on community initiatives and even inviting Lily to participate. At first, John had hesitated, unsure how his humble perspective could matter in a world of boardrooms, presentations, and large-scale planning. But Emily insisted. She valued his insight, the way he saw life through a human lens, not charts and numbers. "You know," she said one evening as they walked through the city park, "sometimes I forget that solutions don't always come from money or influence. They come from people like you who see real problems and understand them." John smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I just see life as it is. People struggle. People need help. And sometimes, a little attention and care can make a big difference." Emily nodded. "Exactly. And that's why I want you with me. You remind me of what's real." That day, Lily ran ahead to play on the swings while John and Emily watched. It was moments like these that grounded them, reminding them both that amidst the complexities of life, simple joys and human connections mattered most. A few days later, Emily invited John to one of her company's charity events. This time, John entered the sleek hall with a bit more confidence, realizing that he was not just an outsider. He was a part of Emily's world in a meaningful way. Employees, volunteers, and community members greeted him warmly, clearly aware of the role he played in helping Emily connect with the community. During the event, Emily spoke to the attendees with her usual poise, but she made sure to include John in the conversation. She highlighted the importance of understanding the community's needs and how his perspective as a single father brought valuable insight. John felt a mixture of surprise and pride. He had never imagined that his experiences could influence decisions at such a scale. As the evening progressed, Emily and John found a quiet corner to talk. "I'm glad you came tonight," Emily said softly. "Seeing you here, sharing your thoughts, it reminds me why I do this work." John looked at her, admiration clear in his eyes. "Emily, you do amazing things, but you never forget the people behind the problems. That's what makes you different." Emily smiled, her gaze softening. "And you remind me why human connection matters. Not just plans, not just projects, but real lives. You've shown me that in ways I won't forget." The event ended, and they stepped out into the cool night air. The city sparkled around them, lights reflecting off the wet pavement. Lily ran ahead, laughing as she twirled under the street lamps. John felt a surge of gratitude for Emily, for Lily, and for the unexpected journey that had brought them together. Over the following weeks, their bond strengthened in small but meaningful ways. They spent weekends exploring the city, visiting libraries, parks, and little cafes that only locals knew about. Emily began to show John the human side of her life, the side hidden beneath the titles and responsibilities. John, in turn, shared his world of simple joys, teaching her the pleasure of small victories and quiet moments. One afternoon, they visited a children's hospital where Emily had arranged a small charity program. John watched as she moved through the wards, talking to children, laughing with their parents, and offering support in ways that went far beyond money or influence. Her humanity shone through, even in a world dominated by power and wealth. "John," Emily said later, as they walked outside into the sunshine, "thank you for being part of this. You see the world differently. You see the people, not just the numbers or results, and that matters." John smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in years. "I'm just glad I can help in some way. Seeing those kids smile, it's enough." Emily reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "You give me hope, John. Hope that the world can be both powerful and kind, both complicated and simple. You remind me that humanity matters above all else." John felt a sense of humility and pride. He had never imagined that his ordinary life could make such a difference. Yet here he was, a single father, influencing a billionaire's vision for the better. It was a reminder that human strength, compassion, and understanding could transcend status, wealth, and power, the essence of HFY. As the weeks turned into months, John, Lily, and Emily created a new routine, blending their lives in ways that felt natural. Emily joined in simple activities like baking cookies with Lily, reading bedtime stories, or watching movies together. John found himself admiring her not just for her accomplishments but for her heart, her laughter, and the way she embraced life despite challenges. One evening, they sat together on John's apartment balcony, the city skyline glowing around them. Lily was asleep inside, her small frame finally resting after an energetic day. John and Emily shared a quiet moment, sipping warm tea. "You know," Emily said softly, "I used to think success was about control, power, and money. But now I see. It's about connections, kindness, and understanding. It's about people." John nodded. "I always thought the same. Life isn't about what you have. It's about what you give. Your time, your care, your heart." Emily smiled, leaning closer. "And you've given me all of that, John. You've reminded me what really matters. And for that, I'm grateful. John looked at her, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Emily, you've given me something too. Hope, inspiration, and a reminder that we can be strong, compassionate, and human, all at once. They sat in silence, the quiet hum of the city around them, feeling the bond between them deepen. It wasn't just attraction or admiration. It was respect, understanding, and a shared sense of purpose. The next day, Emily surprised John by inviting him and Lily to help launch a new community initiative. The project focused on providing resources and support to single parents and children in need. John's insights helped shape the program, ensuring it addressed real challenges families faced. He realized that even a simple perspective, grounded in human experience, could have a meaningful impact. During the launch, Emily spoke to the audience, highlighting John's contributions. Sometimes, the smallest voices have the biggest impact, she said. John reminded me that solutions are not just about money or strategy, but about empathy, care, and understanding. He showed me that humanity is the greatest power we can possess. John felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had never sought recognition, yet here he was, acknowledged not for wealth or status, but for being humankind, attentive, and understanding. Lily, holding his hand, beamed with pride. After the event, they returned to John's apartment. Lily ran ahead to bed, exhausted but happy. John and Emily sat together, sharing a quiet laugh over a cup of tea. You know, Emily said, I've learned something important. Power isn't about what you own. It's about what you give. And sometimes, ordinary people like you make the biggest difference. John smiled, feeling a warmth that went deeper than words. And sometimes, extraordinary people like you remind us that we can all make a difference. Together, Emily reached for his hand, holding it gently. Together, she agreed. As the night deepened, John realized how far their journey had come. From a rainy evening in the park to shared projects, laughter, and understanding, their connection had grown into something remarkable. It wasn't wealth, status, or success that defined their bond. It was empathy, kindness, and the human strength that carried them through challenges. In the quiet of the city night, John, Emily, and Lily had discovered the true power of connection. They had found strength in one another, a reminder that humanity, compassion, courage, and understanding was the greatest force of all. And as they looked toward the future, together, they knew that life would be full of challenges, joys, and adventures, but they would face it all as a family, united by the simple, profound truth that human connection could triumph over any obstacle, inspire hope, and create extraordinary change. In the end, it wasn't power, wealth, or titles that mattered. It was love, care, and the shared moments of life, the triumph of humanity in the simplest and most extraordinary ways. And for John, Emily, and Lily, that triumph had just begun.